All right. So do you see it now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so it's having the wait. So the line protocol, which is the switch with the greater than symbol. There are commands which it's not letting me do it right a second, unfortunately. Why it's I'll show you the commands here in just a second, whatever gives me back control. There it is. So let me give me just a second here. All right, so starts out with the switch, generic, that's the name. It's either going to be switch or it's going to be router. ASA, if it's a firewall, they'll say firewall. That's the opening step you're on. You can use help. Oh my gosh, I can't type today. You can use help or the question mark, and it will. Not having it. All right, so one thing that's happening here is if you type a question in wrong or type a command in wrong, it goes out and goes and tries to look up that word to a domain server. We're not connected to the internet, so it connects at the all quad 255s. To turn that off, which I'll turn it off in a second, is the no IP domain lookup command. That way, if you mistype something, it doesn't stop you from doing anything, and you can continue on.
Can you type that in the chat room, because I have encountered that before?
I have too, so thanks.
It's called no IP. I used to know it and I can't remember it now. No IP.
No IP domain lookup. Yep. So get here, config T, IP domain. Okay, that command, no IP domain lookup.
So that's just a general thing. As soon as you do a config T, you need to do the no domain IP lookup.
I do. That way now, if I were to type in heal, see, it didn't sit there and have to time itself out of trying to look for an unknown name or unknown command or computer.
Yeah, that's a big time saver.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit type exit again, and we'll go back out to the main thing here. So I'll use the question mark. So at the line console or user mode, user exec mode, here are the commands you have available just at the user exec mode. You don't have any rights to write or save or make any changes to the actual device. You could ping, you could do a show run. It'll show a little bit of information. But again, what you don't want to do, I don't know why I said again, what you don't want to do is you don't want to leave it open to where this is even available. So when someone logs in or gets access to a command line, they are prompted for a message of the day. Then they're prompted for a password, a secret password, and then the enable password, whatever way you have set up. Okay. So you see, just at the user exec, you have 10, 12, maybe 13 commands. If I go to enable and then do the question mark, now I've got a bunch more. Here it's just showing portion of the screen. So you can either hit to go one at a time or hit the space bar, which represents everything. Now you can see the difference between user exec and privilege exec mode. From changing the clock to debug to enabling or turning on or turning off a report. You can do a show run here, which is a show running -config command, and I can look at the default configuration set up on this PC or the switch on. One thing that you will, if you're doing this remote, if you're connecting to a device remote, you will 9 times out of 10 not know what the front of that device looks like. So before I do any commands or type any commands, I always run the show IP lookup, I think that is. Show IP interface. So show IP interface brief command. Did anybody notice what I was doing there? I was using the question mark at different locations. So let me just back that up. So I can use the question mark for help and see which command I want to use. And here I'm going to use show. So I can type show. And then what do I want to look at? So I can do the question mark again behind it, and it'll show anything like show access list, show flash, show whichever one I want to look up. So if I know the command starts with show IP, I can do that, show IP question mark. Now, do I want to see the access list or interface? If I want to see interface, but if I start typing INT, you can hit the tab key and it will fill in that interface for you, or that command for you. Well, if I just do show IP interface, it only shows that. But I need to see all the interfaces that are available. So that's why I choose show IP interface brief. And now it shows me a visual representation that I've got 24 fast Ethernet ports, and I've got 2 gig ports and the VLAN 1, which is standard. You'll see that the difference between VLAN 1 and the other ports is these are down. That means they are not been turned off. They are not shut in the shut command. It hasn't been turned off administratively. VLAN 1 is turned off automatically at the admin level. So I'll show you the difference there. I'll go interface, fast Ethernet 01, and I'll do a shut command on it. Okay, and then out, and then show interface brief. And now you'll see that just by using that shut command or shutdown command, I've disabled FA01 on that actual switch. It is good habit if you have a port that is not being used to have the shutdown command added to it. You don't want someone that gains access to a wiring closet or that has direct access to your switches or your routers to be able to plug in their device and then have the network available to them. If it's administratively down, they can plug into it, but they don't get it. There's no connection whatsoever to the device. Outside of that, you should be putting your passwords on and following the default items as you get through and you start doing the same stuff. The host name, putting in the default interface, the command for the VLAN 1, shutting down any ports that are not being used, putting on your secure passwords, creating a login. That way you're prompted for a username and or password to log into a device. Let's see. A number of other ones. So let me stop there. We're like 9 minutes left. What else dealing with the commands that I could show you or help you understand better? All right, Eddie, let's see. Control Shift 6, that should break you out of it. Okay, thank you. You're correct on that. Anybody else? Karen, I know you said you were leaving in a minute. Anything else on the commands? All right, so this one I wanted you to look at the user executive mode and then go to the privilege exec mode. Let me do that. Let me go from exit and hit enter. This one asks you to show version. If you're needing to know what iOS you're running. So this is running 12.2 iOS for 2960. You as an instructor, you will have access to any software you need for your physical devices. It has to be in a learning environment and not in a production environment. Cisco gives you the ability to download the iOS to use for equipment that you use for teaching in your class. So we'll go over that, how to get all that information. Let's see. All right. So that's pretty much that lab, other than just dragging and dropping here. Like I said, this is your table. This is the rack. You can drag any of these devices over to a rack that you want to. It's not rack mountable. So that is.
And can you go to the last step? It says reflect. What's the advantages and disadvantages of a serial console? Did I miss that?
Let's see. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using serial connection compared to the USB console connection? It's a good question. I mean, that one is the advantage to serial is you're right in front of it. Okay, and really it's none. You have a serial connection compared to the USB console. Oh, okay. So on a laptop or even on a desktop, you have okay, a serial connection, and I need to show you. I need to show you a image of that. Screen. All right, so the serial connection, I think it's DB9 to RJ45. So this would be your serial connection. You'd have to have a serial port on the back of your PC, and most newer PCs or desktops or even laptops do not have this available. So this is for older PCs, your serial connection, or a USB serial. This but has a it basically has a USB to plug into your PC, and then still has that RJ45 that goes in the back of the console port on a switch or router or what you're looking at. So the advantage versus the disadvantage, they're going to give you the same thing in connection wise. The advantage is whichever one you have, which model of switch or laptop you have, and then USB is going to be generic with anything. I mean, as long as you got the software that you can use to connect to a device, they're going to be pretty much the same. Again, the only disadvantage is how old your equipment is that you're trying to connect from. Well, how old your PC or your laptop. The other thing I wanted to show you is to get to a lot of free software. I don't know if Michael or Kelly has showed y'all this already, but I go to nanite.com, and nanite.com, basically it's use it for IT departments, use it all the time in IT when I was down there. But here, if you don't have PuTTY, you can actually select and download PuTTY, and then select get your nanite. It's free to download. All this site is a repository of new or current software versions. So a year ago, if I'd have selected Chrome, I would have downloaded let me rephrase that. If I select Chrome now, it will update my current version of Chrome that I have on this PC. If I don't have Firefox or Opera or whatever, it will install whichever software I'm trying to install. The other advantage of this is you can select as many things on here at once, and then you select get your nanite, it downloads it all in one file and then does all the installations for you. So you don't have to go to Java and download something. You don't have to go to Python. You wouldn't have to go out and search for PuTTY. This is just a great resource to have and use for quick installation of software you may need to use for your classes currently and or classes you teach in the future. That answer your question, I hope?
Yeah, I looked and I couldn't find an answer, so I was like, okay, where did I miss it?
No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You're doing great. Everybody's doing great. All right, so we're right at 5 o'clock. I don't want to hold you past that. Any questions before everybody leaves? All righty. Well, I will stop the recording and